This is a brief demonstration on new features of GraphPad which are currently under development, and also a demonstration of what Xcode looks like and how I use Xcode and a text editor to actually set up forms. So the first thing I want to show is I've got a new form, and I'll just open it up again just so you can see it. And it's this form, calculations form v2, and we'll open that up. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to perform calculations. So here I want to multiply a times b to equal to c. So if I fill in these two values, this third one will be populated. In a similar fashion, if I populate the value for d, it's going to take the sign of that in degrees and give us the calculation. So all we have to do is go into each one of these fields, 56, okay, and 45-degree sine, and we get these calculations. Okay. Now, how does it actually do that? So to demonstrate, I'm actually going to open up that form again so you can see without any data populated. Okay, so here's a blank form. And you'll notice I've got this bar over here of features. And these are turned off because they're really not kind of ready for prime time. They're under development. But we can turn on our field names. And now we'll see that we have all these fields which are predefined. So I've got company name, company address, company phone. And these are actually values which are set up inside of GraphPad. So if we go down to our settings and we go to info, our company name address is set here, and I'll actually put in one value here. And if I close this and reopen that form, we'll see that value is being populated. And we'll scroll down. So syntax foundation report, that's in the company name. Similar fashion, address line 1, address line 2, and phone number can be populated as well. But what about these values? Okay, this is a calculation, and this form is actually set up, and this is Xcode over here. This shows how the form is defined. And so I've got my lines, and these define the lines, and it says starting at pixel 90 by 50, go to 90 by 800, and it just maps out all these lines at a certain width. And then as we get into these, we have a text field. This is a template text. And what that is it's going to be static. The user won't be able to move it. And it has a value, or a name. So this is the customer name. If we look down over here, we've got, let's see, company. Here we go. Here we've got company name. So here's company name. It's going to be pulling it from the settings form, and it specifies the location within this particular document. Okay, as for the calculations, let's go back over here. We have this field A1, B1, C1. So we can look at our first calculation, and it's just has a name so we can actually track it. So it's a multiplication test, and then here's our actual calculation. So here's our the values that are input and what the function we perform on them. So we have the value associated with A1 times the value associated with B1, and set that output as C1. And I probably should change this so it's an ampersand, but works fine as it is. Okay, and the reason why is because the output doesn't have to be parsed. This actually has to be parsed. These values replaced with values that are put into the fields, whereas this just says place the value over here. In a similar fashion, we've got the calculation for our sine, and we see we have the value of d1 divided by 180 times pi, and then we take the sine value of that and output it into E1. And that's really how these forms are set up, right? So it's fairly easy, but it's doing it via a text editor, and it's just the way I have it set up at this point in time. So it's not something that's actually done through the tool itself. Okay, so now in addition to that, another thing I wanted to demonstrate, and actually for this section we'll actually bring in a blank form. And we're going to create a couple of text fields. Now one of the things that I noticed, and actually in this case I'm going to have to change the hardware, so let's see, keyboard, there we go, that's what I need to do. So we'll put in a T, return, oops, close carriage. So this is how we actually create text. We could type something more elaborate, but what I'm going to demonstrate right now is some new features associated with text. Okay, now we can select all these items. And one of the things that I noticed in drawings I was receiving was that things weren't lined up very well. So now under text mode, we'll notice these are still selected, the selection area still exists. We're going to have an alignment tab. And so I can align left, and everything will be aligned to the left. If I switch these so that they're right justified, then what I can do is I can actually align them right. So now they're all lined up. So for example, if you had like a field or field names and then something they're defining, this allows you to line things up easily, similar with the top and bottom, right? Now, actually, let's do this. Let's go ahead and, oops, did not want to do that. And that's one thing that's actually a bit on the headache side, is remembering that to create a selection area you have to be in points mode, but you can use it in the other modes. So what we can do now is we can create a selection area and grab a particular item. And actually, let's do this. Create all these guys, go to text, make them left justified again. And now we want to align this item with the other two. So I can move it in a position, and with text I'll now have guidelines, and it will snap into alignment. So say for example we turn everything off, grab this one, we want to align it up horizontally, can just grab it and align it, etc. Pretty simple, but it's actually very handy and something that's been missing in the app for a long time. And those are the new features which I'm currently working on. It does show that things are making progress still, although it's a little bit slower. But that's my presentation for today. Thank you.